It is on to wide receiver number 2 for the 2020 NFL Draft film series. On to Brandon Aiyuk, and we're here with Brendan Albert. Not a coincidence, but it is a coincidence. It is very much a coincidence because they don't even spell it the same way or say it the same way. But that's okay. Brendan Albert is in the building, and we're here to talk about Brandon Aiyuk. And before we get to Brendan, let me just tell you guys, he is a wizard. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. This is the dude that called A.J. Brown last year and then DJ Chark the year prior. So kudos to you. And it seems like Brandon Aiyuk is your guy this year, as he might be mine as well.
It's very kind of you to pat me on the back there, brother. I do appreciate that. I think one thing I want to say is, like, in every draft, everyone has a guy that they really like, right? But just because we like a guy doesn't mean that this means we think they're the best of the group, right? Like, me and Adrian aren't going to sit here and be like, oh, he's the best receiver here. He's not. But we are both big fans of his. I think, Adrian, we did the same thing a couple of years ago with Desmond King. Remember, he's coming out of Iowa.
Yeah, the corner.
We both were very high on him, but we both said the same thing. We love him, but he's probably going to be a day 3 guy. Well, look at what he is now. He's a star, for the Chargers here. I think the same thing for Brandon Aiyuk. I think he's going to be a guy, Adrian, probably late 1, early 2. I like him a lot, but he's not going to be a top 3 receiver taken in the draft. At least not to me, but I like him a lot.
Yeah, so from an Eagles perspective, he'd be a guy if Henry Ruggs is off the board in the first round, but most likely probably not going to be available in the second.
I think that's a fair statement, Adrian, right? I think, he's going to be a guy that you would need to take if you're the Eagles in a trade back situation or right there on the clock.
Trading back.
He's not going to be there. He's not going to be there when you take your second round pick.
Yep. And that could be something that they do. We shall see, to accumulate more picks, more ammunition, build a roster. They obviously need to get younger. All right, let's get into Aiyuk as a player. And, the first thing that we're going to look at, some deep stuff. And, I would say that he can definitely create some separation deep. He loves that hitch and go, or the little stutter and go move. And he leaves people in the dust on that move. He's that saying, obviously, if you're even, you're leaving. He's leaving, and he left a lot.
100%. All right, Adrian, we should be seeing my screen right now, brother.
Not seeing the share.
Not yet. Oh, hang on. Forgot the hit share.
Here we go.
There we go. How about now?
Beautiful.
All righty.
Here we are.
So, first thing, I'm gonna talk about the most obvious thing here, so no one in the comment section jumps on us. This is 3rd and 16. Okay, so everyone who is the privilege of watching this is going to know, yeah, they're probably going to run something past the sticks. Okay, well, everyone should know that, except for this corner here, who for some reason is going to try to jump an 8-yard hitch route. Like, it's just a complete bozo move on his part. But let's take away the fact that this corner is clearly out to lunch and is still in Eugene, Oregon, didn't bring his head here to Phoenix, okay? Let's talk about the fact that not that his route is great, but his burst and his full speed that you're going to see him pull away with here is really, really impressive.
Yeah. And then threw the football, threw the catch, and run it to the end zone. So he gets all the way to the end zone, and we can see this other view. This is beautiful.
Big time speed here. And here's the difference here, Adrian. We talked about KJ Hamler, and I had a really gross miswording. I think Hamler's probably a guy who's going to run 4.45. I didn't mean 4.5. I meant 4.5 as in 0.45. Or I think he's probably going to be in a 4.45 range. Yep. Here's the difference. KJ Hamler, probably about 170 pounds. Brandon Aiyuk, over 200 pounds. And he's bigger.
And does KJ Hamler make that catch like that?
That was something I wanted to ask you, Adrian. I don't know. I mean, we watched a lot of his film, and we didn't
look at that hand extension. That's beautiful hand extension. I don't know if Hamler's doing that on a consistent basis, at least. Like, maybe he catches a couple of them out of 10, but he's not catching all 10 of them. Brandon Aiyuk is catching more out of the 10.
That was something I thought too. And I go back to the same thing I said in the KJ film. I can't help but wonder, did he have some type of upper body injury that stopped him from really getting full extension? I don't know that. But you know what? If I don't know that, none of the pro KJ Hamler guys know that either. So it's definitely a fair conversation here, Adrian. The other thing I really like about Brandon Aiyuk opposed to KJ Hamler, Brandon Aiyuk missed 0 games during his time at Arizona State. He's bigger. I think he's faster. And he's more durable. Like, those are all big check marks. I think when you look at the cluster, there's a fair cluster of guys in this late first to second round. Certainly KJ Hamler's in this conversation. But Adrian, durability, I give the check here to Brandon. He's bigger, give him the check there. And I think he's going to run faster too.
Yeah, he's also on the outside. Hamler's in the slot. And I see a little bit more of a route variety from Aiyuk, actually, a little bit. What do you think about that? I mean, I'm just seeing basically quick outs and quick slants from Hamler.
This is one of those things, Adrian, where it's like, do we give credit to Brandon for having a full route tree, or do we discredit KJ Hamler? And I don't know if it's fair to do both. And the reason I say that is KJ is going to do what he's asked to do, right? But same thing can be said here for Brandon. Neither of these guys are playing with NFL quarterbacks, so they're both going to play in systems that are going to have to water down a lot of the offense to get the ball to them. So this is one of those situations, Adrian, where it's like, can he not run a full route tree, or is he not being asked to run a full route tree because of the offense? So these are those answers you would figure out if you're an evaluator at the combine, and obviously you'd find them out individual workouts as well.
Yep. All right, so another deep shot here. We're going to take a look at his release, outside release, I believe, on this particular play. And this is another one. He beats the defender downfield. And I believe this is the one where the quarterback could have led him a little bit better, would have been a touchdown, but he underthrew it. But he makes the play on the ball.
Yeah, absolutely here, Adrian. I mean, he's going to do a great job outside releasing. But what I love here is he stacks them. And then he has to realize, wait a second here, I have to become Willie Mays Hayes and start backpedaling like I'm a center fielder, because this ball that you're going to see is so poorly thrown on the outside.
Sorry to cut you off. If you don't mind slowing it down so you can kind of really show the people. Actually, this might be tough to really break down. We'll see.
Let's do it. Let's go 7.5. Let's see what 7.5 looks like here.
You can break down the stacking part.
So awesome job here. And then once he kind of gets here, you're going to notice he's going to take a step to try to get even on top of the corner. But what he eventually realizes where this ball is going to be is it's outside. So then what happens is he has to start backpedaling as if he's a center fielder because the ball is so poorly thrown.
Oh, man. All right, so next thing we're going to look at here, burst, acceleration, some vision as well. So we're going to see 2 plays where he takes to the house. This one is screen. The second one a quick slant. But the vision exemplified on this particular play. Absolutely,
Adrian. And all those characteristics, what does that sound like to you guys? A return man. Oh, yeah, by the way, he's a good return man. He probably is the best return man in this class from receivers' perspective, at least in the first, second round, guys. But great job of seeing the open field here, looking at the cutback lanes, and then being able to just take away and run away from everyone with his speed. Now, I get it. This is Kent State. I mean, I get it. Like, I understand, like, all right, it's a MAC team. I get that. But I shouldn't discredit a guy from him being able to absolutely own someone.
Well, that's why I showed you several examples of him running away from the defenders. So it wasn't just Kent State. It was Washington State, I believe. This is the quick slant where he takes to the house. There's a couple examples of this.
He's a big play guy. I mean, again, this is just all about speed and ability, right? Open the field. It's just gone. That's it. See you later. Again, he's over 200 pounds here, folks. KJ Hamler
tackle in the open field.
No, he's not. I mean, he's a former running back too. He comes with a running back background, and it's very noticeable as well.
Yeah. All right. Next thing we're going to look at here, I'm trying to some route running. This is a quick slant. The next thing we're going to look at is a pivot route, but the nuances of route running with Brendan Albert. Talk about this particular quick slant here.
So a quick slant here. Let's kind of watch this one here. Okay, cool. Now let's run it back. So football and basketball have a lot of similarities. Let's use a basketball analogy here, guys. If you imagine, you have the ball in your dominant hand, and you're in a triple threat position, right? Meaning you can shoot, pass, dribble, do any one of the 3, right? The nice thing about this position in basketball is it gives you the ability to jab step. So why do you jab step? You jab step to try to get that defender to push back on you to kind of give you a little space for a jump shot, right? Or to be able to get them off balance so you can go opposite direction, right? Well, route running has jab steps, tendencies in it. What we're going to notice here about Brandon on this slant his last left foot plant, he's going to intentionally take it to be a little bit wider. Why he's taking that to be a little bit wider is it's going to make the corner think that he's going to outside release. So what you're going to notice is that corner is naturally going to start sliding because he's thinking, okay, here comes an outside release for a fade. Then all of a sudden what you're going to see that Brandon does a really damn good job at is that right foot, he's not picking it up and putting it down and only gaining a yard. He's going to pick it up and overstride, try to get 2 to 3 yards in that first stride to create more separation at the top of his route. And then when you're a guy like Brandon Aiyuk who has outstanding speed and change of direction and burst ability, that's the difference that can take it from being a completion to being able to hit you in stride and hit your head in the goalpost. But you'll see it clear as day here. Really good job of that hard left foot, really hard left plant to really make sure that defensive back slides. Here comes a fade. Nope. Opened up the door. Now we can come inside here.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love the way you described it. It's almost like a pitcher, right? He's got the fastball, he's got the curveball, and he can't have his tells. And you know that's almost like the nuances of route running. He's sounding like he's outside releasing. No, he's hitting you with a quick slant. That's beautiful.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right here, Adrian. And this is another one. This is another perfect route. You know, you might call it a return, you might call it a whip, you might call it an out and in, and there's a whole bunch of terms for it. But what we're going to see here, he's going to be out here in the bottom. This is another thing, Adrian, I know we talked about it earlier, but I think it needs to be overstated. Brandon lines up outside and inside. This is bonus points for me. You know, you look at a lot of other guys, they play more in the slot. Brandon played outside and inside. I think that's a bonus point type of situation here. But what we're going to see him do is he's going to come in. He's going to try right to get to halfway between the hash and where his line of scrimmage snap was. So let's take a peek here, Adrian.
Yep.
Cool. He's going to be on top of the numbers. So he's pretty much going to split this. He's going to try to get here, and then he's going to return. The two things I really like about this is, again, first step, he's going to try to gain as much ground as he possibly can coming to the sideline. The other thing, Adrian, you're going to notice here, very sharp. And it's very sharp because it makes sure that there's no way the corner can undercut it here. Bang. Come back outside now. Now do something with it.
So I have a question for you about these Pac-12 corners, right? Because like you look through the names and the guys that he's facing, not many guys are going to be in the NFL draft. I didn't have access to the Utah tape, for example. So how much does that, kind of affect somebody like an Aiyuk? Because obviously a guy like Henry Ruggs, he's facing NFL competition every week.
It's a huge factor, Adrian. It absolutely is a huge factor. I mean, that's another reason if I'm going to make a case for KJ Hamler, I'm probably going to say, look, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin, all of those guys probably have better corners than anyone, maybe outside of USC, that Oregon faced, right? So I would argue that the talent, or I would say that the level of competition is certainly much higher in the Big Ten than it is in the Pac-12. So that's a very fair thing to say. My rebuttal, I would say, is the fundamentals of Brandon's route running and his burst and acceleration, that will translate no matter who he plays against. It's not like he's making 50-50 catches against some bad corners. He's just beating the drum off of a lot of these guys. Yeah.
I had a follow-up to that. So obviously, with the lesser competition, my next point was he missed the Senior Bowl. So that's unfortunate for him because that's where he could have faced a better competition than obviously the individual drills. Huge minus. I mean, Adrian, if you remember when we did our Senior Bowl, he was actually my biggest loser for that exact reason because I thought he could have been a guy who could have jumped maybe Justin Jefferson here and solidified as maybe the fourth receiver taken. But because you're 100% right. You go to the Senior Bowl to give yourself more competition opportunities for college coaches for NFL evaluators to be able to say, hey, look, I've seen him do it all over the place. He's beaten everyone. He's putting whoever you got in front of him, he'll beat him. You can't blame him for who's in front of him or not. That's not his fault necessarily. But I do agree with you, Adrian. That was a big minus for him. Yeah. All right, so next thing we're going to look at, I believe this is some body control that he showcases, some turn-up field ability. So with Hamler, for instance, when we see him come back to the ball, he might catch it with his body, a little bit tougher to make that turn-up field, whereas Aiyuk, he's got his hands out in front of him. It's an easier transition for him. and you can just see it's tough to bring him down.
Yeah, I talked about the fact, Adrian, that he was a former running back, and it shows. I mean, a lot of times it shows with him. Awesome job here. First and foremost, this is something we don't really appreciate as often, but cutting off the heels of your teammate when you're in a stack situation or you have some type of combo route. So all we're going to see here, folks, is he's going to be inside here right on the hash. Just a quick out from him. But what he does a really good job of is he keeps his speed even to be constantly in the blind spot of his teammate, which is naturally going to allow him that when he undercuts, when he cuts behind him, what's going to happen for this corner right here? He now has to go through his teammate and he has to go through the other receiver because they're in man coverage here. So awesome job here of being able to cut in the blind spot. Now this ball is badly underthrown, but then you see this yak ability. I mean, being able to break that tackle, and all of a sudden there's added yardage right there.
Yeah, his body control was able to, again, take in that underthrow or that poorly thrown ball and make the turn upfield there to the left sideline. So here it is. We're going to see it again. And it, whoop, slips right off him. That's the 203 right there.
No doubt.
All right, so next thing we're going to look at return ability. And he has return ability. So Eagles, they've been looking for a returner last couple years. Well, Brandon Aiyuk's got some ability in this area. He's got a lot of ability in this area.
No doubt about it here, Adrian. Let's make sure I get this number right here. You have 14 return attempts this year, 226 yards, and 1 touchdown in his 12 games in this past season here. So Brandon Aiyuk absolutely has that return ability here. And this is against USC. So this is against the best team on their schedule talent-wise. Maybe them in Oregon is right there. But again, tough guy to tackle in space, and then you see his speed, just be able to run away from him. It's also important to remember here, guys, we're watching this on 3/4 speed. We're not watching full speed here.
Oh, that's true. We should probably show it in full speed now, I guess.
Let's do it.
So we're seeing balance through contact. It's the body control, balance through contact, and then the acceleration after you can't bring them down. So stop-start ability.
Yeah. Again, right here, that's stop-start. And that's all acceleration right there. And now we can see him start to pull away.
Woo! Man, just got tripped up. Come on, dude. You got to make it all the way.
Now, Adrian, do me a favor. Can you pull up USC's roster and let me know, is number 8 Arnelius St. Brown? Can you Google that for me, brother?
Yeah, let me Google that. As I Google that, you just keep showing the rest of those returns.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to run this one back one more time here. So, again, this is a guy who stop-start ability. I talked about his ability as a running back to break tackles in space, and then has awesome vertical speed here. Yeah, of course, you'd like to see him score, okay? But I don't think anyone's going to argue that this is a clip that's showing him serious speed. Now, let's talk about punt return ability here, too. Again, against Oregon. So, if you didn't think USC's most talented team, you probably thought Oregon. Again, great vision, and then just wiggle ability. I mean, when we talk about any offense that struggles, it's so important is your starting field position. I mean, it's just so damn starting important. So, this ball is pretty overkicked, but I mean, right here, that ball should be down at 25. He ends up getting his team, Adrian? 30 yards right there on his own.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're right on it.
So the reason I bring this up is, Adrian, he's going to be a guy who will be a high draft pick next year. Okay? There'll be another one because this guy is I'm going to pause here. St. Brown is the son of a former Mr. Universe. Okay? and him and his brothers are literally named after Greek gods.
Oh, that's great. Oh, so, that reminds me of, St. John's had a center by the name of God's Gift Achua, and his brother is now, where's he at? I think he's at Memphis, and he's got a crazy name too. So
here's my thing, man. Like, I am all for being proud of your children, but boy, that's a big check you're writing for your child if you're naming them after a god, man.
Yeah,
that's a big check.
I'm not exactly wanting to walk around being named God's gift.
Oh, But let's talk about a punt return. Another punt return here for Mr. Aiyuk. This is going to be his touchdown one here. But you can see him. He just toys with people. I mean, his change of direction ability is really special, Adrian.
We need him for the return ability as well. Oh, man. All right, so this is the only negative thing we have, at least highlight-wise. We'll get into the discussion of him having a one-year production after this.
Yeah. So here's my one thing here, Adrian. I put on him. I still think, and Adrian, you talk about this in a second with me, but I still think his route running ability is still very raw. Okay. And I say this with kind of like a no shit Sherlock kind of statement, because again, he doesn't have a ton of experience. So no shit Sherlock, you're not going to have a lot of polish, right, in your route running. And this is just a simple sluggo. So he's selling the slant, and then we're running the go, right? The problem is on this clip, doesn't get enough outside release here. Kind of picks us up, put it down, and then he runs straight into the receiver or the corner. Yeah. I mean, okay, yes, like you're like, oh yeah, it's pass interference. Yeah, it is. But you know what? When you watch his footwork, he runs straight into him. And like, okay, yeah, maybe you want to beg for the call, but I don't like this personally. And the reason I say this, Adrian, is because now you are determining the success of this play based on what an official might or might not call in pass interference. And here's a little secret for everyone. The NFL still doesn't know what pass interference is either. They have no clue, okay? So don't try to tell me, oh, well, he drew the flag. No, because the NFL doesn't know what pass interference is, so why should you or I act like we know what pass interference is?
Yeah. So I look at the 1 year of experience as a plus and a minus, because the plus is you look at that route running. Well, we saw the separation that he's created.
Yeah.
So he's creating separation while not being a polished route runner. So that to me is the plus. Now the negative is, it's only 1 year of production.
Yeah. And let me give you guys some numbers that I think are important for framing this. So first and foremost, Brandon Aiyuk is a traditional, like a lot of West Coast guys out of high school, for one reason or another, go junior college. We don't have as many options here on the West Coast as the East Coast does, okay? So it's very common for guys to go junior college. He goes junior college. After junior college, goes to Arizona State. His first year in 2018. Stats, pretty disappointing. I'm going to be honest with you. Here's his 2018 stats, folks. 24 receptions, 413 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. And in the return game, 11 return attempts for 67 yards. Then we go to 2019. 65 receptions, 1,192 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. In the return game, 14 attempts, 226 yards returning and a touchdown in 12 games. Again, didn't miss any games in the 2 years he was at Arizona State. So you kind of say, wait a second here. Okay, here's the concern, right? You're telling me I'm supposed to spend a late first, early second round pick on a guy who had an uptick of 41 receptions and almost 800 more yards in receiving yards in a year. This sounds like a little bit of fool's gold to me, right? Here's why I tell you you're wrong. Because in 2018, he had a guy named N'Keal Harry who ended up going this past year's draft 32nd overall to the New England Patriots. In 2018, here was Harry's numbers. 73 receptions, 1,088 yards, and 9 touchdowns. He also had 9 return attempts. So the lack of opportunities for Brandon Aiyuk in 2018, I think, is more of an explanation than his numbers simply not being there. I think the talent was there the whole time, Adrian. I think it was the fact that they had this guy, N'Keal Harry, who had a great sophomore year, had a really good junior year. So then naturally the numbers for Brandon Aiyuk weren't there his junior year, and thus had to have more success this past season.
And you can make the argument that he could have accumulated a lot more yardage had he had a more accurate quarterback who leads him in stride, and he could have caught some of those deep passes for touchdowns.
And that's a great rebuttal that you could make to a lot of people who would say, well, he doesn't play against great corners. That's true. He also doesn't have great quarterback, right?
Good point. So he might have, because I don't know what example of a receiver would be. Somebody from like SMU, for example, you might look at his stats and he's like, oh, he's like 1,800 yards. And I'm looking at Brandon Aiyuk and I'm looking at the route running. I'm like, no, he's the guy. But yeah, that's another receiver for another day, I guess. As we get into next week, I don't know who we're going to get into. I'm thinking another speedster. I don't know who it would be. Jalen Reagor, maybe?
That would be my suggestion.
All right. Well, if that's your suggestion, then it's going to be my suggestion.
Let's
That's
do
what
it.
we're going with. Jalen Reagor for next week's show. This was Brandon Aiyuk. I liked him a lot more so than KJ Hamler. So we've done 2 so far, and we'll see what Jalen Reagor looks like next week. I'm Adrian Fedke. That's Brendan Albert. We're out. Peace.
Appreciate it.